Hello, welcome. How are you? My name is Philip Ramos, and thank you so much for joining me here in this Spotlight series. These are interviews that we do here to connect with people, to figure out what makes them great, what drives them, identify their strengths, and have them share some of their stories and what's working for them. Here at the Strength Studio, we're committed to providing you content. We're committed to helping you, support you along the way on your strengths journey, and help you identify what's great about you and how you go about doing that. Whether we're doing that through theme insights, whether we're doing that with some little tips, but also through these interviews, you can gain an enormous amount of value and knowledge and understanding when you can identify, well, this person's in this industry, they're doing the same thing, they have to meet the same expectations, we share the same role, but their approach to it is just a little different. And their strengths, their innate strengths, is what makes them unique in their approach. I was the previous, actually, not too long ago, I was doing an interview with Nicole Mulcher, and we talked about Simon Sinek and the interview that he had with Jim Clifton about how when one of the things that Simon Sinek identified is that we have his why, right? Your why is your dream home, if you will. You know, your why is your purpose, your mission in what you're building. But your how is your strengths, he said, right? The how you go about doing it. So if we can incorporate more of the how and support the how in others, right, surely we can find more engagement and more success in what we're doing. So that's really the intention as we go through these interviews, as we do these things, is to really uncover and have people share what that looks like for them, so we can relate to that, right? We can learn from that, we can experience from some of that, and give ourselves permission as well. So without any further ado, I want to take time to hand it over to my guest, have my guest introduce herself. This is Chasity Dedman. She's a doTERRA advocate, founder 2.0, right? Congratulations, crushed it there. So good job for you. But we're going to turn the time over to her, have her introduce herself, who she is, what role she plays, and we'll kind of go from there. We'll get to know her a little bit. So Chastity, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're super excited. Okay, so first off, I mean, all the things that you've done, you've accomplished, but give us let us a little peek into your life, right? Tell us about yourself, your roles, that sort of thing, everything you're doing.
Okay, well, I am almost 50. This year, I'm excited. I'm turning 50. And I'm a grandmother of a brand new little boy. My daughter had a son. I'm also a retired homeschool mom of my four children, two boys and two girls. I homeschooled for 21 years. And the last few years of that homeschooling is when I discovered or was introduced to doTERRA essential oils, and I started learning how to use them for myself and my family, and they changed my life. I did not enroll. My husband enrolled me as a wellness advocate for a Christmas present.
Uh,
And of course, he just trusted my sweet upline when she's like, you can save $35. He trusted her and he enrolled me as a wellness advocate and not ever thinking anything about it. And God just used it in our lives. It's helped us. And I didn't want to sell. So I started giving everything away. I didn't know about sampling. So my husband said, you're going to have to make some money because I can't afford your habit anymore. And so I started learning to do it, I guess, the right way in my eyes of using samples and helping others. But I would never have dreamed that I would be a US founder and I would be successful as an entrepreneur and selling supplements and oils. But when you just serve and love people and meet them where they are, it just happens. And when you believe in the product and you know it works, there's no reason to feel guilty or bad about selling it. So my full-time job now is sharing doTERRA and being a mom and a grandma and a mother-in-law and a wife.
I
So
love That's awesome. I mean, that is so great. This is, again, by the way, this is brand new information I'm learning about chess. Isn't this so much fun? So I gotta, so many times people, think that, they enter in based on a need, right? They enter in based on, oh my gosh, I gotta do this, or they enter in for different, but here your husband enrolled you and was like, and next thing you know, you're like, oh, I guess I'm doing this thing, right? And I just love it because we all have different journeys. And so one particular start to someone's journey isn't necessarily better or right, because here, and you mentioned it too, you first you had a belief or an idea or a process of, I'm going to give it away, right? And next thing you know, oh wait, I can't do it this way. I gotta do it the right way. And so you learn the expectations and the principles of network marketing, of doTERRA, and that sort of thing, in order to obviously thrive, to accomplish what you did. And I think that again, I just want to, that alone can provide so much hope. I was actually talking to Nicole about the same thing. My favorite thing about network marketing is its great potential. It has the greatest potential for the least amount of investment and the least amount of what would be the right word, commitment, if you will, right? Because you can really, make something great with very little, but with a great potential. And I just love that we have that ability to do that in this industry or in this thing, and make a lot of mistakes like you did coming in, and you did all this thing and you're like, I'm going to learn how to do it right. And that's wonderful, chat. What a wonderful way to start this out. I love it. Oh man, thank you so much for being honest. What were you going to say?
Well,
Were you gonna say
make
something?
lots of mistakes, and so it helps you to be a better leader and a better teacher to your builders.
Ain't
Because
that the
you're like, don't
truth?
do like this, don't do like that. Just like my very first check I received from doTERRA, it was like $19 and something. And I called doTERRA and said, I didn't return anything. I don't know why you sent me a refund. And the lady in customer service started laughing. And she said, that's your commissions. Well, I didn't even know I was a wellness advocate. I just knew that a friend of mine needed oils. And I told her, I said, you can get them from doTERRA. And she went on there. And of course, where it says, do you know wellness advocate? She typed my name in and I earned commissions. Like I didn't even know why. And I was like, well, that's crazy. Just a lot of mistakes, not knowing and not wanting to look to do the business, which was my mistake. I should have paid attention in the beginning. I should have asked questions and not worried about what other people thought, because I knew that the products worked. I knew they helped me. I knew they helped my family. And I should have not even worried 1 second about what people thought about me, about sharing. I mean, yeah, they've been called snake oils. I've been called all kind of crazy names, but I learned a lot of mistakes, and now I am teaching my builders and my customers the importance of the rewards program. I would order 2 or 3 months and then stop my LRP because I didn't need anything that month, and I'd lose all my points. So there's a lot of mistakes that I made that now I just use them to help others.
Well, and I love that. So this is where I want to incorporate, in the start of this, we haven't even, guys, it's going to be a great interview, but I just want to say one of the things that you're mentioning here is, you did something because, you believed in it. You were sharing it, you were giving it away, you were doing all these things because you weren't trying to build a business at the time. At the time, you believed in something. And so just so you guys know, she has belief at number one. So when you look at belief at number one, Chastity, I really love that's your. Sometimes we look at our strengths and we think that these are these things that they're these superpowers, but they only play a part in certain areas. Yet here you are, you're exposed to oils, you're exposed to this thing, right? And you're like, I believe in this stuff, so I'm going to give it away. I'm going to help people, and in all of a sudden later on is where transition into the business ideas, not the other way around. And I think that that's such a great example for us to really own who we are, and that when we own who we are authentic to that. You were authentic in sharing the oils because the first and foremost was the purpose of the business. You shared the oils because you had a belief about that, and I love that. I think that is a great example of why we should know who we are, so that we can lean more aggressively into those places in our life, right? To not put things that we value more in front of it, but how can we use our belief to create abundance, to create wealth, to create financial freedom? And so I think that's just a wonderful example of that. That's awesome. That's incredible.
Wow.
That's
Thank
incredible.
you.
Yeah. Okay. So going into this now, let's jump into some of the questions here. Now, number one is what we want to take a look at as we go through this interview. Obviously, we're identifying strengths. Some of the people here have taken their strengths assessment. Some people have not. Now, when you first took your strengths assessment, so you took your assessment back in 2018, so you've had it for a while. Now, when you first took your assessment and you got your results, what was your impression? What stood out to you? What were you like, what was in front of you? What were you thinking?
Well, I was very excited because they were all happy. In my opinion, I was like, oh, wow, all of my top five, because that was all I opened to begin with. I was like, these are all happy, like to me and good. Not that any of the strengths are negative, but I was like, okay, I might can do something with this, but I didn't understand it. I was just happy that they were all seemed to be cheerful.
You're like, okay, this is good. I got some good things here, right? Because something to play with. I like that. That's not so. I'll be on. Not always the case, right? But I'm glad it was your case. I'm glad you opened it. We're like, yes, and maybe that's your positivity. So what you have positivity at number two, right? So the moment you saw it, you're like, oh, sweet. Belief number one, positivity number two, right? I love that. So now what with if there's a specific strength as you were reading over your top five, looking into it, what was one that actually stood out to you? What was the one that kind of like, we're like, ooh,
It definitely was belief. Because not that I'm a strong-willed child, I was kind of the black sheep of the family because I wanted to do things, I guess you would say like my way. Like if I knew in my heart something was, possible, I was going to do it. So I guess the one that stood out to me the to be the most significant was belief, and that it helped me to understand why I have such a hard time. Not that I don't ever lie, because we're all liars sometimes, and I have been. But like it was just like that's okay. That makes sense of why I am so like, no, this is this, that is that, black and white. I guess you could say that I'm so, yeah, when I believe in something, I physically get sick when I go against something I believe in.
wow,
It,
wild.
yeah, I do. And I know it too. And so I'm like, that's when I stop and pray and I'm like, Lord, okay, help me to find the right words, the right solution to handle this, that I don't hurt this person, or, I don't do something that's not pleasing to you, to get without, without being cruel or mean or hateful and taken the wrong way,
Sure.
So that one was probably the one that I was like, wow, that makes sense of why I act the way I act about certain things or
Wow.
about everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the kids, raising my children. Yeah.
How we do anything is how we do everything, right? And I think that that's one of the things that the strengths really bring to life is that it's not that you use belief just around you sharing oils or giving away oils. It's how you do everything, right? It's how you raise your kids, grandma now, all the mother-in-law you said, right? Everything that you do is based on these internal truths, if you will. And, to point out, you don't just have belief at number one, but you have responsibility at number six, self assurance at number seven. So when you believe something again to be true, right, you feel like you have the responsibility to own that truth, right? That this is the right thing. And again, self assurance is that it's that strength, it's that internal knowing. So like what you talked about, just inside, it's not this you were a black sheep, but if you felt like this was the right thing, you're like, I'm going to do it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be the one that I was like, wow, yeah, that stood out to me the most. And it made me feel proud, I guess, in a way, to think that not that any other number one strength is any better or less than any other one, but it helped me to it made me feel proud because I just think it's a really, really good strength.
Sure. Yeah. And in part of, one of the parts of the journey, and we talked about this last time you and I chatted, was, what the process looks like. And one of the most important parts of the process is that level of appreciation. So often we see strengths, we identify, but if we don't actually own it and love that a part of ourselves, it's very difficult to develop. Nicole used this term called uptick, where when you were like constantly trying to move up, right, the ladder, trying to move up. And I think that that's a great example of what we're trying to do in life as we develop. And our strengths are they're ways for us to help us uptick and identify. So the fact that you identified your belief, right? And you're like, ooh, I like that about myself. And you enjoy that. You took pride in that. And I think that probably it makes it shine more, I would assume, right? It makes it, it makes you feel like you're connected with it more.
Yeah. And like then when I do have strong feelings about something I believe in, it doesn't make me ashamed of my feeling. Just like, going for Founders 2.0, as soon as they announced it, I immediately started crying because I felt in my heart one of those spots were mine. And before, years ago, before I understood a little bit about my strengths, I would have felt like that was selfish.
Mm,
But I had this strong feeling in my heart that one of those spots is yours, but you gotta do the work.
mm.
It's not just gonna happen. You have to do the work. And so that's where some of my other strengths came into play.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so great. That is so great. So now that, obviously, took your strengths, you identified, what this meant. So in the combination, and I love that you just mentioned, your experience when they announced Founders 2.0, right? So sometimes when we talk about, I always talk about people about superpowers because I think that there's something that we do that's comes to us so naturally that maybe other people don't. And maybe it's your belief. But you just mentioned kind of a situation where they announced it. Would you call that your superpower? Or what would you call, like, if you're in, like, the thick, you're just in your zone of genius? What does that look like for you? And what do you think, what strengths combine to make that happen?
So I believe that I think it's number 5, my developer would be my super strength.
Okay.
Super strength because I do love to pull out all of the good in other people and see it and help them to accomplish things or help them to see how great they are. Because I think we all have our own insecurities
Sure.
for different reasons, maybe childhood stuff or maybe present things or failures. But I think that developer is probably my super strength because I feel like I'm like a cheerleader to everyone and just helping them to see their God-given and amazing talents and qualities,
Mm,
and also helping them to heal and let go of things
sure.
that's trying to hold them back. So
Sure.
I would say developer. I think that would probably be my super strength.
Well, and you combine developer with your belief, right? I mean, how powerful it is, I'm sure, with people on your team when you don't just believe, because developer is all about, right, believing in the potential of them or the potential of the thing or what can be created from it. So you take your belief, right? You're like what you believe, and then you dump that into developing people. I'm not gonna lie to you, that sounds like a great feeling to come from someone, right? I bet I bet the person on the other end of that is feeling pretty good. That's really cool. Have you seen that really impact, the people? Can you see them feel that from you?
Absolutely. There's several ladies that are coming to my mind right now on my team. Some of them are widows, some of them are single moms, some of them are brand new mothers. And so when I get with them and do their one-on-one and help them to make their plan, I had been doing individual. I use Canva to create stuff. I'm learning computer stuff, but I know it's so funny. My kid's like, just give it here, mom. And I'm like, no, I can't learn if you don't show me. But like the lady who was a widow that wanted to teach the class about fog and how when you lose someone like that, you go through this first year of your life and you have this fog. And so she didn't feel comfortable teaching like the different handouts that we have. And so I was like, well, you have your own story. And she's like, yeah. I said, so let's just make your own handout for you. And the title of it was like, let me help you through the fog. And it was about, just your feelings and overcoming and just the great supplements. It was just really good. And so like, she cried when we finished the handout because of course we had the little bitty icon guy and we dressed him like in an outfit like her husband would what he wore to work.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we put him on stage. So I said, he's always with you when you're teaching to help other people to go through this first year of grief and using things because they don't sleep. They don't want to eat. It's things like I hope that I don't experience in this lifetime of becoming a widow, but there's so many people. And so like her story now is going to like she's found purpose in her life because she is going to help other widows or widowers or just people who've lost a loved one close to them and help them with doTERRA, but she's going to help herself financially
Yeah.
in the process. And so that's just one example that comes to my mind, you know, of just helping someone else to develop and giving them the capability to use their strength and their story to help other people and change their lives. So for me, it put me out of my comfort zone because then I had to start learning to use Canva. But every single builder I have, if they wanted to individualize their class with their testimony or their story, we made a handout and added in all the supplements and the different oils they needed. So that, yeah, putting those two together and just loving on these ladies because I personally want to see them all walk for silver at convention, and I want them to get their power of three and all the things. You know, because when you have more money, which is, I had a poverty mindset, but when you have more, you earn more money, and it just already shows what's in your heart, and they're already caring, loving, precious women that want to help others. And so the extra money that they have, they can use that to do all kinds of amazing, amazing things. So
That,
yeah, that's
that's
that.
awesome. So and as you're talking, I'm thinking about, I'm looking over your top five, and so you have strategic at number three, maximizer at number four. And so here you are trying to, right, put together a plan for them, right? For them to see themselves in it, customize it for them, and create an experience for them. You're trying to make the most of it by creating not just telling them to tell their story, but let's create a flyer, a handout, or, I think that's such a great way. And again, it's just a sheer example of when you are given permission to flex. And I like to think about that, right? Because our strengths are really, if we think of it, right, they can be our muscles. They can be, and muscles that maybe are stronger. Maybe we have stronger upper body muscles or stronger lower body muscles, but there's muscles in our body that we're maybe used to flexing more often than others. And so when we given permission to flex them, our confidence goes up, our engagement goes up, all these things start to happen. And here you are, flexing your belief, flexing your developer, your strategic with this widow, with these women, single moms you mentioned. And I think it's just a great example how we can bring the best version of ourselves out. And when we do it, we give permission, and we also give almost like a it would like a guide, to invite others to do the same, to be themselves, just like what you were doing with the fog, and helping her customize based on her experience and her story. And that's incredible, that's magical.
It was great. I believe in the Lord giving us ideas and that He directs us, and He also pushes us out of our comfort zone to help others and to, yeah. And so all of that just works together.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Well, and this is where I think that again, our strengths are talents. There are things that we're great at. There are all these great things. But on the flip side of that, right? And this is Gallup. This is part of the process. Is that as much as something influences us for greatness, it can also come in the way of, it could be we can stumble, we can fall, we can overdo it, we could underdo it, and it's common, mainly because what people look at in terms of weaknesses, right? We don't have weakness when it comes time to strengths. You don't have weaknesses. When it comes time to strengths, you have things that influence you more in terms of the way you naturally think, feel, and behave. But these things down here, they just don't bear as much weight. They don't actually influence you. So it's important to identify more of who we are. But because of that, right, we can overdo something. So what would you say? What strengths do you feel like, that you struggle with, or maybe you overdo it, or maybe there's something you're like, oh, man, I got to watch myself, right? It's too much of it, or what do you think that would look like for you?
I would probably say my positivity because like I told you, I set a timer when I get down in the negative or have a bad moment. I set the timer in my house for 10 minutes. I give myself 10 minutes to cry, to wallow around, to be poor, pitiful me, the pity party, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm like, get over it. So probably my strength that, yeah, is that strength is my positivity in the fact that I don't give other people time to wallow long enough. Not 10 minutes is not enough for everybody else, or sometimes.
Yeah.
I think I don't give them enough time to be sad or be down about it, or if their builder stops building or, whatever. I'm like, it's okay. You're going to find more. Well, for in the moment, that does not feel good to them, but because I've experienced it many times with different builders or different people who sign up and you think they're going to go diamond in
World,
2
yeah.
months. And then they place their enrollment order and then you can't get them to call you back. And so I think probably my positivity, just not giving people enough time to just wallow a little bit. But I just think yeah, you need to give yourself 10 minutes,
Yes.
be sad, be upset, feel sorry for yourself, and then move on because you're just bringing more negativity into your life. And yeah, and then that gives you all the fog that I mean, I did it myself when I was going for founders in the last 15 days. I started not walking in the top 5, and yeah, it was I quit. I'm like, I'm done. And yeah, so that would probably be my positivity, probably would be my one. Yeah.
You know,
Or my say that I have one kid, my youngest, he's like, why do you gotta always be rainbows and unicorns? And I'm like, cause if I'm not, who is gonna do it for you?
oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's hilarious. So boy, oh boy, can I relate, right? I have positivity at number one. And I love what you said. So you said, obviously I give very little space, right, for someone to feel bad because I'm like, don't you worry about it, turn that around, say down, right? But I also loved kind of what you said about, we get positivity isn't just necessarily, what we feel, but we start to implement it. We start to think, maybe to the point where we don't look at we start to believe, in this case, maybe your positivity and your belief, but you take that new builder, for example, and you said, oh my gosh, this person is going to go diamond, right? Within whatever time. And next thing you know, you can't get a hold of them. And I know sometimes positivity, right? It's one of those things that we can convince ourselves of something we want to believe, even if it's not true, right? Even if we don't have the evidence or the facts, we're just like, oh no, oh, this person, this is great, type of thing. And I know I do that all the time with my positivity where I delude because I have surely, right? Of course they are, right? Okay, and that's interesting that you brought that up.
I did it today actually at lunch. My daughter, her baby is 11 weeks old. And so 2 booths over in the restaurant we were eating at, there was a young mom and her baby was 6 weeks old. And so at the end of our lunch, I had been talking to my daughter, Sierra, about I was like, you need to like teach a class on all the stuff that you're doing, with your baby, with oils and all the things. And so I've been really trying to get her to go ahead and start helping all these young moms. Because her doTERRA tech is part of the reason she's going to get to be a stay-home mom.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I walked over to congratulate the new other little mom on her baby. And I was like, do you use oils with your baby? And she's like, no. And I told her a little bit about it. And my daughter's standing at the door waiting on me because her baby's ready to eat. Um, and I said, well, I'm going to give you my card because my daughter over there, she's going to be teaching new classes, and I just went into all the stuff. And so she's like, amazing. And she took my card. I said, so text me your name and number and I will give it to her and she can reach out to you. She's like, oh, that would be great. And so we go to walk out the door and she's like, what were you talking about? And I said, I told her about your new classes that you're going to start teaching on. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, we're going to put it all together and you're going to start teaching those classes. And I said, I just know it's going to help so many people and it's going to help you. And she's like, thanks, Mom. And then we got in the car. She's like, yeah, I need to do this. And it's so empowering to her as a mom, you just don't realize until you get your own children that how powerless you can feel when
Yeah.
they don't feel.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was today's episode of Mom's Positivity, and this is
Uh,
going to be great.
I just absolutely love that. Again, you being true to yourself. I was talking to a gal the other day where she was saying, Philip, did this mean in order to do, network marketing or this business, do I have to be where I'm talking to people in the restaurant? I was like, no, no, absolutely not, right? People are going to approach it differently. But here you are being true to yourself. And I think that that's such a great example of what strengths can do when we start to learn about who we are. Because in those situations, let's say it didn't go well with your daughter, right? And then we start to question, we start to say, okay, I guess I'm wrong. I should never do that. That's bad. And we start to like my woo, for example. I love meeting new people. But if someone always said, Philip, that's not the right way to do things, it makes me question all the time. I'm like, oh, I guess maybe I'm doing something wrong, right? Doing something wrong. And so part of us knowing who we are and knowing our strengths, we can lean more aggressively into the things like positivity, right? Things like, oh, mama, you're always unicorn and rainbows, right? And you're like, yeah, you know what? I am. And that's who I am. And I love it, right? Kind of thing. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and then when I was walking across the parking lot, thinking my strategy kicked in at all the different little pregnancy pamphlets that I bought at convention. I mean, like I have all of these things, and I'm like, that could totally be her welcome gift. I'll just take all those things to her house, and she can start making the little bags to give out to all the new moms, And so my strategy kicked in walking across the parking lot.
See, true to true. I love it. Absolutely. That is what a wonderful example of how, right, your strengths come out, all that stuff. And even though, right, we overdo, right, we can overdo it, we can also see the value of what it plays, when we are
Mhm.
doing it right. So that's amazing. That's amazing. So now knowing your strengths, right? So you have your report, you know your positivity, you know your belief, you identify your strategic. I love it. So now that you know this about yourself, how do you feel like it has impacted your DoTerra business? Like, how do you feel like it's impacted? Because obviously, this is a great example with you're using your strengths with this brand new gal prospect. Thinking about your strategic, but how do you think how has your strengths impacted your business?
I would say the best way to describe it for me is that it helps me to understand who I am
Mm,
and why I act the way I act. Um, yeah, it just kind of like give a definition. Hi, my name's Chasity Dedman. I'm a wellness advocate, and I believe that you need oils. I am so positive they're going to be a great thing in your life, and I'm going to strategically show you how to buy them at cost so you can get a wholesale account. And then I'm going to meet with you. I'm your maximizer. I'm going to show you how to customize your car. I'm going to show you how to set out a plan. And then any extra support that you need, I'll be glad to help you. And if you would like to join me in this doTERRA business, I will be glad to be your leader and develop you into an amazing doTERRA diamond. So before I'd have been like, hey, here's a whole bottle of balance oil you need because it helped me. Oh, you don't owe me anything. It's fine. Just let me know how much it helps you.
yeah, yeah,
That's the
right.
difference.
Oh man, that's so true. And what's interesting, right? That both of those obviously have value. I mean, in the moment when you were giving away that oil, you still loved, you still appreciated, you still valued them, you believed in it. But one of the great things that, again, at least I've learned when it comes time to strengths is when we put this thing called business in front of giving away oils, right? We can no longer give it away. And we say, okay, we got to do business. If we don't know how we can do the business, right? These expectations or these things, if we don't know how we can play this role, we may look at someone else and we say, I have to do it that way. Oh man, like I don't know if I'm smart enough, right? You and I talked about this. I didn't graduate high school, didn't go to college. I did the packets, right? All that jazz to graduate later. And so if I saw this person who had all this smarts about health and what it looks like, I could feel very inadequate. But because I can share, and I love what you said last time, right? Our mess is our message and our test is our testimony, right? Because I can share those perspectives, I can add value and I can do it in a way that's natural for me, whether if I'm talking about gut health, whether I'm talking about my own health experiences or what I've struggled with or capacity. And here you are still doing the very thing you love to do. And that's sharing something of value and of beauty. But you've identified, okay, but this is how I do it to drive my own engagement success, right?
Yeah. And I think another thing talking about how it's helped my doTERRA business is like not everybody is going to receive your message of you need essential oils for emotional, mental, physical, whatever, or this probiotic would help you. It's helped me to know my belief in the deep down feelings in my heart that I know why I do doTERRA. I know my heart towards it. So whatever you say about me, however you judge me, whatever you want to, try to make me out to be, I know that's not who I am. And
Mm,
I know that my heart is to really help people. I'm not saying I'm always perfect, but my strengths have helped me to realize this is who God created me to be. I love hard, and I am a little pushy in some of my, when I know people really need it, and I just don't understand why. But I do understand because there's so many gimmicks and people have been tricked and put on auto ships for all kinds of things that it's hard for them to trust that this product is going to help them. And that's one of the reasons my LLC is called Dealing Hope for my doTERRA,
yeah.
because I want to share hope with you. And so I can see how my strengths help me to not get down on negative people who don't like to see people be successful. I like to call it effective, that my success is when I'm effective and I make a difference in someone's life. So they've helped me in that way too, and not to worry about people making fun of, oh, you do LMA, whatever it is, multi, whatever you do. And or oh, those are snake oils. It's helped me to know my purpose and my heart and to keep it in a pure way, to know that why I'm doing what I do.
Yeah. It's funny because last time we talked, I thought a lot about when you talked about effective, and I was actually teaching a class and I used a little bit of your example, when you talked about what you want to be and you ultimately want to be effective. And when we look at our strengths, it allows us to be effective because you mentioned a little bit about that story of, where maybe, you struggle that before you almost when you almost quit, right? Of the founder 2.0. And some of the things that when you mentioned, right, procrastination, you mentioned all these different things. And we can often find in our strengths our needs, right? What are the things that we need to be true to so that we can move forward, so we can be, in this case, effective. And we talked about going, the strategy, the plan. But here you are in the moment. You go back to the story with the mom, this new mom, and you have all these different things, and you're bringing the best version of yourself. And yes, some people could take it as like, pushy or whatever it may be, but like what you said, you know it to be true inside of you. Believe that you believe it to be right, and you feel responsible to this child, right, or to this new mom with this message of hope, of dealing hope, right, all these things. And I just love that everything is we pull back the curtain, right, behind we see. If I were to be a fly on the wall and I see Chasity go out there and do the thing that she did, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I don't know how to do that, or how does she that. But when we peel back the curtain and we start to say, oh, she has this theme, this theme, this theme, she's learned and leaned into them and identified them, I think that we can find more hope and more encouragement towards how do we become the best version of ourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you do, like I'm a Christian and I pray and ask the Lord to guide me. I ask him for a person every day, someone that needs to be encouraged or, loved on, share doTERRA with, or share the gospel with. And even at lunch today, there was a gentleman come up to me and called me by name and told me where we met. And he said, do you still sell doTERRA? And I was like, absolutely. And he said, can I buy some deep blue from you? Here's my business card. Would you email me how to get it? And I was just like, wow, Lord, you're even sending me people without me having to, you know, it's just crazy. And then I said, well, I said, now what do you got going on? And then I wound up telling him about the VMG and stuff. But yeah, before I embraced those things, I would never have done that.
Mm.
I'd have been like, hey, and then I said, oh, absolutely. But he needed it right then. And I had put some packets of Deep Blue in my purse a couple of days ago. And I was like, well, look here, you about to be blessed right now. And so I, I opened up that little box and I handed it to him. And then he stood there and talked to my daughter and I for probably 15 minutes
That's phenomenal.
about some stuff he's been through in his life. And I was like, wow, you just don't know how people are hurting, and just being just just loving on people with your just a pure heart.
Yeah,
It's going to come back to you.
I
It
love.
is going to come back to you.
Oh my gosh. Well, you can definitely see how your themes come through and through with what you're doing, how you're engaging people each and every day. So as a leader though, right? Because you're leading your daughter, we talked about your kids in your business. We talked about, these other women, that you have. So when it comes time to your leadership, how do you feel like your strengths have impacted your leadership style, or what has it done to improve who you are as a leader to engage in your business?
Uh, I'm sorry. um, I would say that my strengths, just especially since hitting the Founders 2.0 spot, because I did quit like here, but I was just like, um, 15 days before I hit that spot. And that's when I started functioning in not in my top strengths. I got tired and all the things. Um, but I would say it has made me, they helped me to become the leader that I want.
Mm.
Like I want people to say, "Ooh, I want to be on her team because she's going to support me." Not that my upline did not support me. She's done the best that she possibly could do, and the 2020 changed everything for her family and her life, and she's back on board. But I they helped me to be the best version of me, you know. And the thing about it is like what I'm learning is during that almost 3 years of trying to become a founder, the hard work, um, it has they really have shown me it is so much better and such a greater blessing to do it with a group, do everything with other people, and don't try to do everything yourself and empower other people, but micromanaging. But my strengths have helped me to be a better leader.
Mm.
I analyze myself every day, even when I homeschooled my kids when they were little. I would ask them, tell mommy something that I do that you think I could do better, or do I do anything like at home that is not kind, or and they would always give me examples of funny stuff. But I think my strengths truly help me to be the best version of myself when I walk in the top five. Just like your stones, like I was saying, like David in the Bible grabbed up the five stones, and it only took one. And if I can always walk in my number one strength and belief in what God's called me to do, belief that I can do it through his strength, and belief that we have the answer to people's prayers. We totally do, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. If I always walk in those strengths, I'm always going to be the leader that's going to attract people who want to grow and who want to build, not just in doTERRA, but who want their life to be um, the best version of themselves.
I love that. I mean, literally, you can hear it coming through, hear your belief, hear your developer. And again, the more, because like that message, that what you just said is so, right, authentic, so true. And the more and more we dive deeper into that whole of our strengths and who we are, the more confident we grow. I remember in starting this whole thing out, and I have woo at number two, and I talked to you a little bit about this, but my belief in thinking that, oh, are they gonna like me, or she gonna like me, he gonna like me, and when I do say, well, this message or that message and that sort of thing, it kept me trapped for so long in believing that I couldn't have what I really want. So I saw my engagement go like this. I'm sure what you saw, right? That 15 days before you hit, you start to, pity party, right? Here it goes down, your positivity goes down, your belief in what you're doing, and all these different things. And same thing, my positivity, my woo. And I learned very quickly that when I'm not engaged in the very things that are innate in me, that drive me with people and meeting new people and engaging and sharing conversations, why I love these interviews. I could do these all day long, is because you get to know you get, for me, it's what is drives my woo, my positivity, my strengths, my activator, right? Connecting with people and figuring out what are they doing that's right. And so for you, listening to you as you know, your leader, and what you just shared is so beautiful in terms of what your strengths are. They come to life. And the more and more we do that, the more authentic we are. And tomorrow, when you go to eat lunch or wherever, you're probably going to do the same thing. Someone else is going to pop in your life. You're going to be talking to this new mother over here, right? You're going to be talking to this widow over here, and you're just going to be doing your thing. And I love that.
Yeah. That one thing I was just thinking about is the reason I started focusing or like going into my bottom strengths or whatever, not walking in my top strengths, was because of the deadline
Mhm.
on the founders. They actually put a deadline, and before it was when they reached the
Yeah.
top 200, whatever. That scared me. And so I started walking in fear.
Oh,
I've,
wow.
I've worked so hard and now I'm not going to make it because of the deadline. And you and I talked about me procrastinating. And you helped me understand that why I do that. And so one thing I've learned is usually the thing you fear the most holds the key to what you want the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started being afraid. Oh my goodness, there's a deadline,
Yeah.
and started focusing on that fear instead of just kept doing what I was doing, what I'd been doing for, almost 3 years. And so some things I've learned is God will make you face the things that you fear the most because then you become fearless.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, like my calendar's right here. I'm all about some dates and all kinds of stuff. And,
I love
you
it.
know, and stuff. But what you taught me about my procrastination, it's not that I'm a procrastinator. It's because my belief that when I give my word, I'm going to give it. But when I write it down or I set that goal or whatever, then I have to follow through. And now, like you teaching me, get your strategic plan and then commit to
Yeah.
it. And then you're going to be successful. And so, like, now I shouldn't be afraid if I do those steps,
Yeah.
strategically plan how I'm going to accomplish that, and then set my date on it,
Yeah.
and then go for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes fear of rejection, fear of failing, fear of being successful, all the things. If you focus on that, it's going to grow, and it just clouds your mind, and you just fall right down off those top 5, 10 strengths, and then you can't be your best version of yourself.
It exposes so many great things, right? We can learn a lot from that. So in going into, you've talked about your strengths, you've talked about, I mean, some, you can obviously see how you use them day to day. Every day your strengths are popping up, things are going. So, aside from your, obviously professional life in doTERRA, how do you see your strengths? What do your strengths look like on a day-to-day basis? In terms, because I think sometimes people think that we do things like strengths, that it only applies to our career, right? It only applies to when we're trying to do in our business. But how do you see your strengths influencing your everyday things that you do?
Wow. Um, yeah, because we go through seasons, in our lives. And I'm just sitting here thinking, when I didn't know what my strengths were back when I was homeschooling the kids, strategically, I would just play games because I'm like, I didn't graduate. I did graduate high school, but I had to go to night school to graduate. I never went to college. So I always had that in the back of my mind. I'm not smart enough.
Right.
And then some people made fun of me for homeschooling my kids
Sure.
because they said I was going to ruin them. But, you know, but just thinking back over different seasons of my life of how I use them and, the positivity in homeschooling when I really some days didn't know what I was doing. But we made it work and they're all amazing. My kids are oh God, they're so amazing.
That's awesome.
Um, they are. But like today, I do use them every day and in different ways, like keeping the house clean or, scheduling appointments, one-on-ones or classes, or just I use them every day. But I guess again, going back to belief, it's like, what is today going to hold for me? Am I going to be effective? Am I going to live through what my purpose is here for today? Am I going to be preoccupied in the negative instead of my positivity and miss an opportunity to help somebody, to encourage somebody, to meet them where they are. And so I think just every day there's an opportunity to use every single one of them.
For sure.
Yeah, and I have to choose how I'm going to show up.
Good.
If it's going to be the top or it's going to be the bottom.
I love that. I love that. That's awesome. So, what do you think the greatest thing you've learned, being on this journey that you've been on with strengths, you took your, assessment quite a few years ago. So they've been in your life, you've seen them, maybe there's times you've studied them, there are times you've been good at. What do you think the greatest thing you've learned from knowing your strengths along this journey of being involved in doTERRA or just in general?
Okay. I would say just like the other when we were talking about reading the page 3, 5, the odd number
Yeah.
pages and it describing your gifts in detail and all how they like weave together.
Mhm.
And like you can braid, and the Bible talks about a 3-cord fold and how it's so much stronger,
Mhm.
is that when you use them together, when
Mhm.
you braid them together and not just try to just be that one thing, it's it makes you such a stronger person and more grounded and more effective. I think that test probably, I wish that I would have learned, I wish I would took this test years ago, and I would have learned what they meant and like reading the page 3, 5, 7, and 9, 11, and really like pondered over that to be like, wow, I am truly wonderfully made.
Yes.
There's no one else like me. And yeah, I can affect the world in a different way than anybody else.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I get to, every day, I would say I learning how to actually understand and use them. And I have a long way to go to understand all of it. Um, but yeah, just what I've learned from you and, just different things. Yeah, how it does make me so unique,
Yeah.
like a fingerprint.
100%. One of the things one of my favorite things that I did early on, if you look up talent in the dictionary, it says the definition of talent in the dictionary is a gift a gift that's been bestowed upon, you know? So when I think of the word bestowed, I think of like enshroud, right? I feel like that's the moment when God comes in and and you just light up into that maybe unique web, braid, and as it weaves through you. And we're a unique combination. I learned this early on where my wife has activator number 3. I have activator at number 3. And I saw that from the very beginning. And I made the assumption that, oh, we both are the same. And I did that for a long time until I actually read hers and mine and was blown away. And I have to say, it's probably the thing that most people don't know. Like when they take their strengths report, they actually don't know how unique they are and how that information is created. It's not because the one theme. It's the one theme and where the other 33 themes surround it, right? Are they here? Are they here? Are they here? Are they right above it? And that's what influences this information. So yes, we may be a strength, but what makes that strength become a reality is the combination of all the other strengths that we have. And I think you're a great example of that throughout this interview. Your belief, not just is shined through, but all the other things around it, right? Your developer, your strategic, your maximizer, your positivity. And we're a combination of things that make that one thing different or unique or special in a different way. You and I are both positivity, but how we go about playing it, right, is two different games. And I think I think it's wonderful to see. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, wrapping this up, we just want to bring it all together. Thank you so much for being here with me. But what would you say your biggest recommendation? Now, you've just mentioned, your understanding today, maybe versus when you first took it. So there's two different types of people that usually watch these interviews. Number one, people that have taken their strengths a long time ago, and they're like, okay, I want to learn about this. How did this person, doing it? And then there's also people that I've never taken my strengths, but maybe I should try it. So, to speaking to them, if you had to start all over, right, and you're jumping back into your strengths, into your learning journey about yourself, about how, your 5 stones, right? As you jump back into that, what would you say your biggest recommendation to someone brand new would be if you could, if you started your journey back over, what would be the biggest recommendation?
I would definitely say take the test, get the book, read the book, take the test, and then get your report, um, and go through those odd pages first. Open all 34 gifts and invest in that to do that, to see all of them. And then I would say call you so that you can you can go through and you can coach them through it. No, I would really say like really like spend some time studying through them and see yourself and see how you were woven and created and what you have to offer and how you can absolutely just walk in the best version of yourself and also see your weaknesses, but don't like dwell in those. Yeah, just absolutely just go through, read the pages. And I would say if you can get someone like you to go through and help you to understand it, because it was 2018 I took it. So that's a long time ago. Not to know. And I did a couple of little things to try to understand them. I printed them all out, I highlighted them. I mean, like you name it, but to really sit down and understand how they like connect and they support like every one of them, support the belief. And yeah, I would definitely say get a coach to walk through it with you and to help you to understand it.
The number one thing I always recommend is curiosity, right? The moment you take it, the moment you look at it, if you're willing to get curious, it can open up all kinds of awareness, right? If you look at it and be like, okay, what do these mean? How does this work? How does this, what's the process look like? And the moment you get curious, all of a sudden you're going to start to be like drawn to, well, maybe I should look at this or maybe I should try this, and that sort of thing. But when the moment you get curious, all kinds of things open up to you, right? All kinds of things. So, and you probably see that in, right, when moments when this young mom is like getting curious about, okay, where do I go from here? How to take care of my baby? And you're like, I'll tell you exactly how to do it, right?
Absolutely. First, take care of yourself.
That's right. That's
Take
right.
care of yourself. You need, you just had a baby and lots of changes. And so mentally, emotionally, everything, physically, but that'll all work itself out. But yeah, support yourself emotionally, first of all.
Cool.
So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Chastity. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate it, and I know others will as well. Thank you first for joining us. Another spotlight series down, another interview down. Please continue to come back to the Strike Studio. We're going to be providing more content on individual themes. We're going to be doing more interviews for you to learn, for other people to gain and grow and learn from, so that you guys can figure out, okay, how do I connect, or what are the same themes that I have with this person, or how is this person approaching this, and how can I use my unique strengths to do so? Because everything you have inside, everything you have the tools inside you to really do what you would, to accomplish what you want. And I think Chastity is a great example of all the different things you shared, right? You had the principles, you understood the things, but when you get permission to bring your best version to it, you go into the, you go up for lunch and all of a sudden all this the great stuff is happening. So I absolutely love it. So thank you so much for joining us, Chastity. Thank you again. Anything you want to share before we sign off?
I want to tell you thank you for having me and for what you have taught me. And also, I would like to say I do appreciate my upline that enrolled us in teaching us about doTERRA, and then all the ladies and men above her that have invested in my husband and I to encourage us and to empower us and educate us so that we can be better at helping others. So grateful for all your wife. I mean, like all the people, yeah, that have helped us along our journey.
I love it. I love it. Right. We're in this together. This is
Yeah.
one big thing. We're in this together. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful afternoon. And we'll see you on the next time in the next Spotlight series. Have a great day. Bye bye.